There's a point many people reach later in life that's difficult to describe unless you've been there yourself. Nothing obvious happens. There's no argument, no falling out, no dramatic moment you can point to afterward and say, that's when it started. It's much quieter than that. A conversation that feels slightly off. A reaction that doesn't quite match what you said. A look that lingers just long enough to make you wonder if you misread the room. You don't feel angry. You don't feel hurt exactly. You just feel unsettled. It shows up in ordinary places. A casual comment at a family gathering. A neighbor you've known for years who suddenly seems distracted or distant. A friend who responds a little more slowly than they used to, or not at all. Nothing you could reasonably confront. Nothing anyone else would notice. But you notice. Later, you think about it. Not deliberately, just in passing, while you're driving home, while you're washing dishes, while you're lying awake a little longer than usual. You replay what you said and ask yourself whether you should have worded it differently, whether you came across as too blunt, or too quiet, or maybe not interested enough. You remind yourself that you didn't mean anything by it, that you were just being honest, or tired, or simply yourself. The next time, you adjust without really deciding to. You soften your tone, you explain a bit more than necessary, you smile at the right moments. You keep things light, even if it means holding something back. And still, something doesn't quite connect. What's unsettling isn't that someone doesn't like you. That's always been true to some extent. What's unsettling is the lack of a clear reason, especially at a stage of life where you've learned how to be considerate. You've raised families. You've worked with all kinds of personalities. You've navigated decades of social situations without much trouble. So when things start to feel awkward, for no obvious reason, it leaves you quietly questioning yourself. You don't want conflict. You're not looking for approval. You just want things to feel easy again. And that's when the thought creeps in, almost against your will. Why does it feel like I'm walking on eggshells now? For many people, this feeling shows up in their 60s or 70s. Sometimes it arrives right after retirement. Sometimes it comes later, once life has slowed down and there's more space to notice what's been there all along. You're no longer rushing from one obligation to the next. You're not defined by a job title or a packed schedule. You're not constantly surrounded by people who need something from you. The structure that once carried you is gone, and what's left is just you. And without really deciding to, you stop performing. You don't rush to fill silence anymore. You don't feel the same pressure to keep conversations smooth or agreeable. You're more comfortable saying, I'm not up for that, or I think I'll pass, without offering a long explanation. You haven't become unfriendly. If anything, you've become more honest, more aware of your limits, more careful with your energy. But not everyone responds well to that. Some people seem confused by the change. Others sound disappointed. A few grow distant. And occasionally, someone makes a comment that feels unnecessary or slightly sharp, even if it's wrapped in politeness. That's often when another question forms quietly in your mind. Why don't they seem to like me anymore? But that may not be the right question, because being liked is rarely about effort or fairness. It's about familiarity. It's about the roles people have grown used to. When you spend decades being dependable, agreeable, and available, others come to expect that version of you to stay in place. When it doesn't, it can feel uncomfortable for them. Some people don't know how to relate to you when you stop explaining your choices, when you don't apologize for needing rest, when you don't adjust your day around their expectations. They might say you've changed. They might say you seem distant, or they might not say anything at all, but you feel the shift anyway. Often, what they're reacting to isn't something you've done. It's something you've stopped doing. Many people realize later in life that approval is a habit learned early. It's reinforced for years, especially at work and in families. Being agreeable keeps things moving. Saying yes avoids tension. Going along feels easier than standing still. But there's a cost to that habit, and retirement has a way of making it visible. Without deadlines and obligations to distract you, it becomes harder to ignore how much energy goes into managing other people's comfort. How quickly peace disappears the moment you sense disapproval. How often your mood depends on how others respond to you. At some point, many people begin making small changes without announcing them. They decline invitations without over-explaining. They don't rush to return every call. They choose quieter days, fewer commitments, more space. Not to make a statement, just because they finally can. And that's when boundaries quietly do their work. Boundaries don't reveal relationships through confrontation. They reveal them through response. Some people adjust. Some drift. Some push back. Some seem offended by changes that were never meant to be personal. That contrast can feel uncomfortable, especially if you've spent most of your life trying to keep things easy for everyone else. Another realization often follows. Being liked and being understood are not the same thing. You can be liked for being agreeable, predictable, and easy to be around. Being understood requires patience and a willingness to see someone as they are now, not as they were when they were more convenient. Not everyone is willing to make that shift. Some people interpret calm as distance, clarity as coldness, self-respect as selfishness. But those judgments usually say more about what they're losing than who you're becoming. There's a quiet freedom that comes when this finally settles in. Not a dramatic freedom, not a rebellious one, just the relief of no longer measuring your worth by other people's reactions. Praise still feels nice. Criticism can still sting, but neither one defines the ground you stand on anymore. You begin to understand that peace isn't something others give you. It's something you stop handing over. Life needs contrast to feel real, agreement and friction, connection and solitude. If everyone liked you all the time, nothing would deepen and nothing would stand out. Relationships matter, of course, but they're only one part of a full life. You are more than how you're received, more than how you're interpreted, more than who stays and who doesn't. Even now, you're still changing, still refining, still becoming. Not louder, not sharper, just more honest. So if you find yourself wondering why someone doesn't seem to like you the way they once did, pause before turning that question inward. Instead of asking what you did wrong, consider what no longer needs to be proven. Because the truth is simple, even if it takes a lifetime to accept. You don't need to be liked to live well. You don't need to be understood to be at peace. Your worth was never up for debate. Thank you for being here. If this resonated, you're not alone. And if you feel like sharing what stayed with you, I'd be glad to hear it.